Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So what we're doing with the design tree is so critically important. It's so critically important, especially for us as African Americans, is because we all feel that pressure. We all feel that anxiety. We all feel that need to escape our environment as soon as possible in order to become something or to remain something. And we really know, or we really feel, that our community has very little to offer us, and that our essential goal is just to escape our own communities. And we're constantly being gaslit about our inability to escape, our inability to create a social economic life for ourselves. But what is never really talked about, that we really have to understand, is that the reason why we feel the way we feel is because our markets are missing. And when I say markets, you might think that markets are places where goods and products are sold. And that's what the dictionary definition of markets are. But markets are way more than we think they are. Markets are our way for us to negotiate our social and economic status in society. And because we live in an environment in which our markets are missing, there is literally no way for us to negotiate within our own networks, our social economic standing within our society. There's no way for even our own community to recognize and reward the talents and gifts, skills, intelligence that we all possess. And so we know we have to get out of this situation, because it's a community that cannot reward or cannot capitalize off of the talent inside of itself. We instinctively know that we have to leave. And it's something that we don't necessarily talk about, but we all intrinsically know that unfortunately that our community can't really offer us anything. And even some of our elders will even tell us that, hey, you seem like a bright, intelligent person. You need to get out of here. I mean, they will literally tell you that you need to get out of here. You need to go, because they know themselves that there's nothing here that's going to be able to reward, your talent. There's nothing going to be able to reward your hard work, your gifts, and that they want what's best for you. But the reason why this scenario even exists is because the markets are missing. The markets that traditionally govern life, that allow you within your own networks to negotiate your social and economic status, are gone. But there also are, and this is the crux of the matter for us as African Americans here, and this is something that the Harvard textbooks and business textbooks will never tell you about, is that markets are cultural expressions. Markets are cultural expressions through anthropology, through history. The way markets are always formed is through some type of culture. And the culture that has formed these markets in this society, in these United States, is white culture. White culture has formed these markets. And not only has white culture formed these markets, but white culture has a history, a violent history, of destroying any other type of markets. In fact, one could say or argue that the whole point of white markets is for market domination around a particular racial class, that being white. And even in our history as African Americans, when we were doing well, when we were actually making a life for ourselves in this country, the only times that we could ever look back in this society and see us doing well and see pure black joy and progress and social and economic progression is when we formulated markets. Places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. And we know that those places were violently burned down to the ground. And we know that there were several other markets around the country, African American markets that we created that were also similarly burned down to the ground. And who knows how many other African markets or emerging African markets that were destroyed through some type of violent or political acts to sabotage their development. And so, because our markets are missing, there's no way for us to negotiate our social and economic status within our own community, with our own networks. And that also the markets are cultural expressions. We have this false notion that, well, we could just be a part of America's market. And we even have most of our leaders, if you really listen to them, most of our African American leaders, if you really listen to them, they really just gaslight you on why you're not a part of these markets. They gaslight you about why you're not socially and economically participating and what you need to do to socially economically participating. They parrot really these capitalistic talking points when at the whole time this capitalist structure has socially and economically excluded you. It does. In fact, if we really break it down, if we really look at it and we really look at the history of this and we really understand markets, we'll understand that even if there wasn't this violent history, because of the science of markets, and that markets are always cultural expressions, that even if they wanted us to participate, we still wouldn't be able to participate because markets are cultural expression and white culture is not our culture. We are not white. There's nothing we can do about that. But if we did live in a benevolent society and saw the true human value of others and was not involved in committing Native American genocide, slavery, and now genocide in other parts of the world now this country is involved in, this country supports arms, funds. If it wasn't this wicked society that was involved in all of these evils, and it was a benevolent society, a true benevolent society would nurture, grow, support the development of African American markets. They would see the true potential of an emerging African American markets to help them to perform different diplomacy in different parts of the world in which those people were historically connected to. If America truly was this benevolent, good, righteous society, it would have cultivated those African American markets and then used African Americans in their markets to have a shared and mutual beneficial exchange, and all of the African diaspora could have been engaged through African Americans and through African American markets. If it was a righteous and benevolent society, that would have been the path. But unfortunately, the path was to destroy the markets that we had and disingenuously pretend that we were ever a part of these markets. When we look at the wealth disparities, we look at the disparities in health is really an indicator, more of an indicator of this market distortion that we're under, and the stress of our lives, the accumulation of stress in our lives that cause us to die prematurely. When we look at all of that, we know that we are not, we're not socially and economically invited to participate in the society in a real way. And so really what we have to do, is we have to continue to on this march, this fight, to design markets. We have to design markets. That is the only social and economic life that we could have. And every human being has a human right to create markets so that they can socially and economically negotiate within their own networks, their social and economic standing. And more importantly, so that their community can reward them for their talents, for their intelligence, for their hard work, for their skills. Every community should be able to do that. That's why designing markets is so important, because it really just gets at the heart of all the problems that we're facing. And the play for us as African Americans is for us to design our markets. And that the play for any group of people around the world to participate in global trade is for them to organize their own markets as well. And so by this journey that God has given us as African Americans, put us in a position to not only heal ourselves, but to heal the world. And we have to be ambassadors for that. I'll be at Masjid Quba this Sunday, 10 o'clock a.m., designing future markets. We continue on the path to design future markets, working with the businesses that we have. Hope more businesses come by, join, collaborate, participate in the process of designing markets. Also encourage any other leader out there, particularly religious leaders, because religious leaders typically have the congregation and also have the community appeal and high levels of trust within their congregation in order to build these future markets. And that's really what's needed, is the high levels of trust. That's why religious communities are the perfect prototypical entities to really bring about these new markets. So any imam, any preacher, any African-American imam, any African-American preacher who wants to design markets, please reach out to me. Please reach out to me. Please go to thedesigntree.co, thedesigntree.co, or find a link in the description. And let's get started. Let me give you all the tools that you will need to collaborate with your community to design a market using their businesses. So we're talking about collaborating on a larger scale. And it's actually simpler than a business plan. It's simpler than a pitch deck, because the way that we are creating these markets and designing these markets is by using our customer stories. And then when we collaborate and see all those different stories, we have a vision of what our market would be and what that market should look like, how that market should work, and how that market should operate. So please reach out to me. And let's get started. Let's get started in designing our future markets. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back with more to share more about markets. And God bless. Thank you so much. Peace.